Welcome back everyone, we continue working on the Albin Counter-Gambit, and now let's go through one of the main lines in the line we mentioned in the first chapter. So now we'll continue working on that line. So here we see c takes d5, queen takes d5, and white plays knight to f3. Now, as we mentioned in the previous chapter, there are other options for white as well, but here we'll see knight to f3, and same as white has so many moves to play here, the same goes for black. We mentioned this in the previous chapter, but now let's get to the main line in this game, that's e4. Now, after playing e4, we've been over aggressive as black, but at the end of the day, that's what we want to do when we play the Albin Counter-Gambit. We want to take, on the initiative as soon as we can. Because, let's, be honest, we're not playing against engines, we're playing against humans. And humans, we don't like defending, we like attacking. So, I think in our mission to equalize in the open as black, getting a lot of initiative is a great idea. Best case scenario, we get a sharp attack and a checkmate. Worst case scenario, we still got initiative even if our opponent plays well. So that's the way I look at this. And now let's see white playing knight to c3. This is the most natural move. This is what our opponents will play. Now if white plays knight to e5, that's a big blunder, by the way, because now if we play f6, then the knight on e5 is trapped. Now you're probably wondering what happens if white plays knight to c3. Here we have to be careful because you would think that bishop b4 wins the piece because of the pin, but bishop b4 runs into queen a4 check, and then white also targets our bishop. So the move that wins for black here is the column queen to e6. Everything is under control, nothing white can do here. Knight to b5 looks okay, but now even a simple move like bishop b4 check does the trick. Bishop d2, we take, queen takes, then we play knight to a6, and at some point the knight on e5 will be captured, and there are no tricks for white here. No knight takes e7, no tricks to, get the piece back. It's simply a piece that will be lost for white. So knight to e5, so long as you know that f6 wins, that's all you need here. It looks risky, yes, but it does win the piece, and there's no real way for white to get, to save that knight on e5. Now there's one more line here after queen e6, and that is queen a4 check. Now after queen a4 check, we play c6, white plays knight to c4, and this is how we still win the piece. Now it doesn't end here, because after b5 it looks like game over, but white can still play d5, and here I like the simple queen to f7. The engine prefers queen f5, but I think queen f7 is even more safer. We keep everything under control, the queen defends the second rank, we attack the queen on a4, we attack the knight on c4, so it's just up a piece for black. Okay, so now that we mentioned all that, let's see the main line, white playing knight to c3. So here, as we mentioned in the previous chapter, when white plays knight to c3, we're more than happy to play bishop b4, going for a pin, making sure our queen on d5 is stable, and here white plays queen to a4 check. Now, even if white doesn't play queen a4, let's say white plays knight here, or knight e5, let's see something more aggressive. Now knight e5, that knight, as we know, is vulnerable, we can easily take it. Now f6 is wrong here because white plays queen a4 check, and as we know, after queen a4 the pin is no longer working. Our queen on d5 is hanging in a lot of lines, so here we're just giving white extra reasons to get rid of that knight on e5, so we are no longer winning a piece here. So the right way to do it, after we go bishop b4 check, knight c3, and here white plays knight e5, the right way to do it is not to play f6 first, is to take the knight first. Now, by doing this, we get rid of a liability, that would be the bishop on b4, and after pawn takes, we play f6. And guess what? Now, there are no bishop b4 for white to attack, the knight on e5 still hanging, queen a4 runs into c6, or even b5 for that matter, but c6 also wins. So white can try c4, okay, then we play queen e6, and that's it. After queen e6, it's essentially game over. Nothing for white to save the knight. So this is a well-known trick. I think it's likely to happen more often than we think. So now, what I was saying is, if white doesn't play queen a4, which is the move played in the game, let's say white plays knight here, the problem is that white is playing way too slow. Now, there's still a pin going on, so no risk for us. And now we've got a lot of space. The fact we've got a pawn e4 stops white from playing knight f3, so no kingside defender. Then we can transfer our queen to the king side to attack. I feel this is so much better for black. It's so easy to play. Now, there are other situations where we could get an Inso-Indian structure here. I don't mind taking on c3. I know white's got the bishop pair, but his development is not ideal. As we can see, most of the pieces are on the first rank. That's not good. So I like queen here. Now, this is not the engine's stock move. The engine likes c5. By the way, I really like this idea of trading that bishop on f1. That happens to be white's best bishop, and the bishop on c1 would be terrible. So that positional trade is something I really like for black. So c5 is good, b6 is good, queen g5. I like the tactics element of it here, because we know white's like the castle kingside, and then if we can play bishop g4 or bishop h3 successfully, that's great for us. It won't be easy for white to find good squares for the pieces. It's not easy to get the kingside pieces out at all, actually. If white plays knight here and knight g3, by the time that happens, we can try playing h5 and h4. We can still play the move recommended by the engine. And since we've got this pawn on e4, we have a lot of space advantage. So I feel our opponents could try something like this to, stop our kingside expansion. But then other issues arise, such as the f3 and h3 square. That's an outpost. Ideally, I could try jump into f3 later on, in future. Something like h6, knight h7, knight g5 and knight f3. Bishop here. I can transfer all of my pieces to the king side like this. All the plans we see in the King's Indians attack. So overall, we get an easy position to play as black. And I'll finish this line with this thought. It's all about the minor pieces as well, because if we can get this trade, if we exchange bishop c8 in return of bishop f1, that'll be a massive positional win, because white's bishop on c1 is not great at all. It's just crashing into the pawn chain, it's not doing much. And if we get bishop f1, and I'll try to make that happen here. Let's say white plays, can even find a way, because it's actually not easy for white. I think this is worse than it looks, because now our bishop will land on f3. And if white plays bishop here, well, what's that bishop doing? Not much. Now bishop here looks pretty good. The engine likes queen here. Wow. It's all about stopping white from castling now. Look at this. Okay, so we might get a situation where we get the trade. This is a really nice example. Look how we dominate on light squares, and the only way for white to challenge that is by using bishop f1. So here, the engine gives black a winning advantage. It's the same amount of material. Look at white squares. The light squares are all, ours, and bishop c1 still crashing into the pawn chain. So, terrible position for white. Not to mention that the king's still in the middle. So, these lines, they don't happen often, but it's good to know, because our opponents, when they play against the Albin Counter-Gambit, they may be too scared to accept it. So they might turn into lines like this, a subline, like taking on d5, and then another subline, like playing knight to f3. So let's continue with knight f3 here, e4. Now, let me show you what happened in this game, because it's really interesting, and in spite of it looking drawish, it's much better for black. So let's see. Bishop to b4. Now white plays queen a4 check, knight to c6, and here we see white playing queen takes bishop. This is the line that's most likely to happen in our games, because we get a lot of trades, as you'll see. That's the only way for white to get the queen trade is by playing queen takes b4. So it's interesting. Now, there's one more line that I have to mention. I don't think it's going to happen in our games, but it's something I have to mention here. If knight to d2, there are two ways for black to play. One of them is the standard, let's call it that way, queen f5 and knight f6. This is a good way for us to make sure we keep our pawn on e4, then we play queen g6, we castle kingside, and we got an easy to play position. Now it's also worth noting that knight takes e4 loses to queen takes e4. There's a pin going on, so white can capture the queen. If white goes for this, okay, we might get the queen, but the problem is that at the end of this line, we play knight c2 check, and it's all over. So if white plays knight d2 here, queen f5 looks fine. Now the engine line is queen takes d4, white plays e3, we play queen b6, knight takes e4, and here not only bishop d7 is possible, the engine likes knight to f6. Surprisingly, this move is very good for black, because even though we get broken pawns on the king side, we'll get bishop d7, we'll castle queenside, and the attack we get, it makes up for the kingside weaknesses. We also have the file for our rook, we've got more development, so overall this is not an easy position to play as white, but it's easier when the engine approves. It's easier for us to get double pawns like this when with the engine approves. So now we get to the core of this chapter. Queen a4, knight c6, and white playing queen takes b4. Alright, good news about this line is that it's pretty much forced. There's not much going on here. After knight takes b4, not too many deviations. That's what I mean. We'll get this position where we get a nice knight on d5, blocking the pawn on d4, and what I really like about this position is that even though white has the bishop pair, it's a closed position, and we know in closed positions knights are better than bishops. and this is no exception. The knight on f6 supports the pawn on e4. The pawn on e4 gives us a lot of space, and ideally, as we discussed in other lines, if we can get the trade, if we can trade bishop c8 in exchange for bishop f1, then we're much, much better. Think of bishop c1 here. That bishop doesn't have good squares to go to. So here we'll see a really nice scenario we got in this game. Black played a5. Now we'll get to that. I think after a5, Black wants to get more space on the queen side before playing something more aggressive like h6. Let's see h6 here. That's the move the engine recommends. And something like this happens in the game. After h3, the only move for white is knight h3. Now, if we take, we get this position where we get the knight pair versus the bishop pair. Now, you could argue that the bishop pair is powerful, but not in a position like this. Not in a position where white doesn't have great diagonals, no open lines for the rooks or bishops. It's pretty closed. So the engine likes king d7. Fantastic move. We don't need to castle here because there's no risk. No queens on board, no open lines. White can try this. Now we can just close down the king side by playing g6. Perhaps even g5, but you can see here we are completely dominating as black. We got more space, and our knights are very, very stable. We got the outpost on d5, we might get other outposts as well. So, not winning for black, but it's a one-sided game where we've got the advantage, and white has limited options when it comes to bishops. So, h6, I really like it. Now, black played a5. So in this game, again, I think h6 followed by bishop takes h3 was, the right thing to do here. It just forces, matters. We get a nice pawn structure. We don't give white extra options. Here, for instance, after a4, white could have played h4. So then, by the time white plays knight h3, rook takes h3 will be possible later, but no, white played e3, and then we get this endgame we discussed earlier. Now, check this game out because it's a masterclass on how to play an endgame like this with not material advantage, but positional advantage, more space, better knights, than bishops. So do check this game out. There's a lot to learn from it, and this is the kind of position we are aiming for when we play this line. Now, as I pointed out earlier, this is not the main line against the Albin Counter-Gambit, but we usually start analyzing the sidelines, and then we get to the good stuff, the main lines. That would be d takes e5. So with this, I'll finish this chapter. I hope you found this useful, hope you could learn something, and of course, I want to see you guys on the next one. Thank you.